Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and welcome. I'm very pleased to be joined by Jon Jordan. Jon is the director of the European Policy Solutions Advisory Group. You're also, I think, secretary of the North Sea Hydrogen Ports and Maritime Communities Association, and you're obviously going to be chairing a session at World Hydrogen Week. Which is fast approaching us, the 9th to the 13th of October. So welcome, Jon. Thanks for taking the time out today to talk to me.
It's a pleasure. It's good to speak to you, Nadine.
Yeah. So obviously, hydrogen and policy, which you're obviously a policy expert. You've been involved in hydrogen for probably, I think you said 2015, so now for 8 years and going into your ninth year. So incredible expert in the area, and we've seen, I guess, a critical role of policy. We know hydrogen is difficult to scale because you've got to obviously create demand as well as supply, and we've seen the role of the critical role of policy in some of the other sectors in terms of specifically renewables, and obviously famous feed-in tariffs that help support the scale up of solar and indeed wind and offshore wind. So as we sit today, I guess in September 2023, we've seen a whole raft of different policies come through, helping to support hydrogen in various forms, in terms of certainly production and consumption, and there's obviously lots more work to be done. We've seen definitions in the taxonomy, we've seen delegated acts, etc. And I guess all geared around, I think you made the point to me just before we started recording, around, I guess, ensuring supply and reducing price. And it's about the scalability of hydrogen, and building a market. So what are some of the other, I guess, critical areas that we need to focus on, and also we'll be looking at from a policy standpoint to help maybe accelerate some of the verticals, so whether they're actually sector-specific regulations or what are your thoughts in general around the sort of policy patchwork quilt of policies that are available for people to use, and what is actually missing in the jigsaw puzzle? Not mixing my metaphors too much, but yeah.
I think you're absolutely right. I think the European Union, European Commission has done an excellent job in promoting hydrogen. The Clean Hydrogen JU has run for many years now very successful demonstration projects showing the diversity of hydrogen and its uses. And now we've got to move from demonstration projects to scaling up hydrogen production and linking that to end users. I think that that's a combination of legislation which is coming through the delegated acts, and the need for certification of purity of hydrogen and its origin. But there also needs to be carrots, incentives to do this. And I think two areas that I'd pick out there. First is the creation of hydrogen valleys, which is not only the EU initiative, but it's a mission innovation initiative. So that's many countries, including USA, Japan, Australia, going beyond the EU. But also within the EU, the European Commission has added an extra 200 million euros in a 3-year tranche to the Clean Hydrogen Partnership annual call. So that's 200 million over 3 years to create and to promote hydrogen valleys. And I think hydrogen valleys now are very important as they create the regional hydrogen economies, and the hydrogen valley plans can play a key role in linking hydrogen production storage to end users.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, essentially, it's kind of taking out the midstream or minimizing the midstream, which obviously helps the economics, and especially an early stage industry like where
Yes.
hydrogen is. It's obviously tough. It's volumetric. It's tough to move around. So, I guess the hydrogen valley concept is a great starting point to help scale both usage cases and clearly, obviously, the production of hydrogen. So it's a good point. And I guess with your other hat on, the North Sea hydrogen ports and maritime communities, you see ports, I guess, playing a specific role there as some of these initiators of valleys.
Yeah, absolutely. We're already seeing as we develop the hydrogen strategies, and all North Sea countries now have national strategies. We're already seeing the need for hydrogen to be imported towards the end of the 2020s and early 2030s. And obviously, ports will play a critical role there. And also, the location of offshore wind now around the North Sea coasts gives ports a ready source of renewable electricity to create hydrogen from. And I think as we go through the transition to net zero, we will find hydrogen playing more and more of a crucial role in the energy mix. I also think that we now need to look at mechanisms to create the hydrogen market. And I think the work that H2 Global in Germany and Netherlands have done to form hydrogen auctions is a step in the right direction. And the creation of the European Hydrogen Bank and the first EU hydrogen auction at the end of November 2023 will also play a key role in the creation of a market, because a market is the next step after showing the importance of demonstration projects. Creating a market is an important part of scaling up.
Yeah, yeah, certainly. And I think it was interesting you mentioned the word carrots, and you tend to, I guess, look at some of the traditional European regulatory environment to be very much compliance or stick, and the American approach in the IRA chiefly to be very much carrots. But I guess we're seeing a blending. Certainly, the European approach is certainly taking some of that carrot approach, and we've seen some sort of, I guess, hefty subsidies. But I'm also beginning to see a lot of the idea of flexibility. So policy that can react to the markets as they scale. Famously with feed-in tariffs, and indeed even carbon markets, there weren't very flexible regulation that could deal with the movements in markets, and famously, when we had the great financial crisis, the carbon markets couldn't react, and we had effectively non-existent carbon markets for years, and again, feed-in tariffs are also a bit of a blunderbuss approach, but I guess with H2 Global and auctions, we're seeing a lot more of a flexible mechanism to help scale markets. Any concerns around that, or you think it's just a question of getting those auctions up and running and making sure that they have got the right I guess base prices or whatever the guardrails are around that policy?
Yeah, it's always the detail here that is going to be a critical factor, and that detail will change as the market matures, and you would hope the target price, which I understand is being set by the European Hydrogen Bank at 4.5 euros a kilogram, is hopefully a price that will attract the producers. Certainly in the early consultation, they've been consulting since March. In the early consultation, it was set at 4 euros, and I think that increase in price has been welcomed by the hydrogen industry. And it has to be a price that the hydrogen industry is comfortable with, and it has to be a subsidy between that price and what the governments will sell hydrogen for. It has to be a subsidy that is in line with competition policy. So the competition directorate of the European Commission play an important role as well.
Yeah, yeah, and the price is also interesting when you frame it with the American context, and I guess the fear of I guess financial drain into the US markets, and everyone's attention, moving stateside, as it were, whether this policy will help reframe some people into the opportunities in scaling up the European hydrogen industry. I guess around certification, you mentioned that. I guess again, it's the devil's always going to be in the detail around the specific measurements in terms of emission intensity. And again, it's a big lobbying battleground. Any thoughts around some of the other key policy mechanisms?
I think those the major ones. We're going to have to look at the transportation of hydrogen and how that's going to be carried out. Certainly, being based in Scotland, that is an issue, and the Scottish government have just published a study on the creation of a pipeline into Europe to carry hydrogen. So that is going to be a major issue. And I think from the ports and maritime community, another issue is what types of fuel to bunker, and what types of fuel will be used by the maritime community. So you have a range of fuels at the moment: hydrogen, liquid hydrogen, LOHC, ammonia, and methanol. All have advantages and disadvantages. And how do we address those issues? How do we address those barriers, and give some certainty to ports in what fuels they need to bunker for the future? So I think we're solving some problems, but there are others just waiting for us to think about.
Is exactly the analogy I was going to say. It's like, you close one door and then you're suddenly confronted with another 5 other doors, and it just becomes ever more complex. But fascinating stuff, and indeed, it's certainly the experience I'm having in terms of trying to keep a handle on all of the policy, and the sheer depth and granularity that's required to really understand what's going on. But thanks a lot for sharing some of your thoughts today. Thanks indeed for taking your time out of your agenda, and we look forward to having your input at World Hydrogen Week, where we'll be discussing all of these issues and helping to clear up confusions and get people's questions answered. So, Jon, many thanks. Take care and stay safe.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to the Hydrogen Week to meet up with many friends and colleagues that I've made in the hydrogen industry over the last 8 years.
Yeah, it's gonna be good.
Good, great.
Take care. Bye bye.
All the best, Nadeem.
Thanks.
Bye bye.
Bye. Bye.